Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The greatest hockey player of his generation broke the Americans' heart in the Four Nations Face-Off Championship. And what's next for the Spurs now that Victor Wembanyama is out for the season? Also, do the Rams want to replace Matthew Stafford with Aaron Rodgers? I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
You can tell the boys missed international hockey. It was an absolute thriller, an overtime classic. Connor McDavid, of course, it's Connor McDavid. He gives Canada a win over the Americans in the Four Nations shootout. Our Locked On Boots on the ground in Boston, Rachel Donner, joins me now. And Rachel, we haven't seen Olympic hockey because of COVID, because of some scheduling conflicts. But this had all of the feelings, the emotions, the atmosphere of that. And I know a lot of hockey fans are going, this is what we were missing. This is why this is so great.
Yeah, all the players were talking about how incredible it was to have best on best hockey again. I think, there's a little asterisk I would put on it in terms of some of the players saying it would be great if some of the other countries' players were represented here. You have Leon Draisaitl, who's an international superstar, not here because he's German. But all that being said, this was some of the most tremendous hockey we have seen in a very long time.
What was the atmosphere in the arena? I mean, this Boston is a huge sports town. It's fitting in some ways that Canada would have to win in Boston because all they do is win titles over the last 15 or 20 years. But the fans, it seems like we're just as ready for this as the players.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there was a little bit of delicious irony here with Jordan Binnington, of course, in net for Team Canada, who was the goaltender for the St. Louis Blues when they won the Stanley Cup over the Boston Bruins. So I think that part of it probably did not go over well with Boston fans here. But honestly, the hockey was so good. I think people got over that a little quickly. Also, Austin Matthews scoring for Team USA, which they then had to cheer for, who was, of course, their enemy playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that is the beauty of these kinds of tournaments. We see them in soccer. There's conversations about the NBA taking on a format like this. I did take notice, Rachel, that one of the things Connor McDavid said after the game was it's not a gold medal or anything like that. Everyone is acutely aware that they have not been, that the Olympics have not had hockey at this level. Was that something that you felt very much on their minds, even in the glow of victory? It seemed to be on Connor McDavid's mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really got everybody charged up for next year. And I think they're excited to have the expanded tournament with more preliminary games, more countries involved. And I think there was a lot of apprehension going into this tournament about would the hockey be good? Would people be saving themselves for the rest of the NHL season? And the answer was a resounding no, we care about playing for our countries and playing for pride. And I think as the tournament progressed, like the hockey got more and more intense and of course culminating in this final. Now, nothing's going to match the 3 fights in 9 seconds from the preliminary game between USA and Canada, but I don't think that would happen in the Olympics, right? So that's a big difference between the two.
It seems fitting that this would come so closely on the heels of the NBA All-Star Game, which was a nightmare. It was non-competitive.
So I hear.
And hasn't been competitive for years. And PK Subban went on ESPN and I thought articulated an excellent case for why hockey is fundamentally different than the NBA. But what is it, do you think, from your perspective, that makes hockey where if you're on the ice, you have to be going 100 miles an hour? Like, what is it about hockey that makes it different? Because it seems like all of these tournaments, whatever it is, it's always got this level of intensity to it.
Yeah, it's the speed of the game, honestly. I mean, hockey is the fastest game there because they're literally on ice, and you can't do that in shoes on a floor. You just can't. And I think it takes grace, it takes strength. The physicality to it is unmatched, again, because of the speed that's attached to the game. And I think that, the sounds of the game, even the sound of a skate blade carving through the ice, is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world if you really listen to it up closely. But then also the crunch of a player hitting the boards, and there is absolutely nothing like it in the world.
You can stay up to date on the NHL by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On NHL on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, Victor Wembanyama is out for the season. Before we get to that, college football coaches are canceling their spring games. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never miss my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Friday night action in the NBA could prove very intriguing. The Cavs 7.5-point home favorites over the Knicks, and the Timberwolves 4.5-point road dogs against the Rockets. Plus the Warriors favored by 1 in Sacramento. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. College football spring games may be going the way of the dodo. The Texas Longhorns and USC Trojans are reportedly canceling their spring games alongside Nebraska because of the newly prolonged season. The development that's needed for these guys to get ready for the fall is a little bit different than it used to be, Texas coach Steve Sarkisian said. I just don't know if rolling the ball out and playing the game when we only get 15 practices is the best for us to maximize the opportunity that we get. With the new schedule and the chaos of the transfer portal window, more programs may start canceling spring games to prevent risk of injury and better preserve their financial resources. On the hardwood, the Pacers grabbed a strong win over the Grizzlies.
The Memphis Grizzlies certainly could have begun their post-All-Star slate a little bit more effectively. A 50-point second quarter for the Indiana Pacers helped doom Memphis on this night. Pacers win big at home to start the post-All-Star slate. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies. Ja Morant did not play his best basketball game. 4 for 15 from the field, only 12 points, 5 turnovers to only 6 assists. Not his best basketball, to say the least. Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane played better. However, if you watch the contest, beyond Ja's struggles, of course, you want to see better defense. You can never give up 50 points in a quarter and expect to win. Too many turnovers leading to too many Indiana Pacers points, lost possessions for the Grizzlies, but also too much Zach Edey standing around, not setting screens, too much Ja Morant hanging out in the corner. This offense, while unique, has to evolve to fit its players.
The Boston Celtics routed the Philadelphia 76ers. And yes, to answer your question, Joel Embiid actually played.
Jason Tatum dominates the game. The Celtics dominate the Sixers. Tatum drops a triple-double. And really, 5 of 13 shooting, 15 points doesn't seem like it'd be a dominant game from Tatum, but he was in complete control the whole way through. I thought this might have been his best passing game, and he's had a lot of games this season where I thought it might be his best passing game. It just keeps getting better and better. 15 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. It's the way he's seeing the floor. It's the passes that he's making. You cannot double him. You cannot blitz him. He is seeing everything. He's making every right read. It is incredible. But they also got a dominant performance from Jaylen Brown, who I thought early on was a little bit shaky, but 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Peyton Pritchard was huge. The first half, 5 of 6 shooting from 3. He got some late run and got his point total up to 28. Luke Cornett running a 2-man game with Tatum had a dominant stretch. Really, Luke Cornett, dominant stretch. The Sixers are toast, man. The Sixers with Embiid in that knee, he can't guard in space. He can't move. It just really was almost sad to see. And I'm saying that from a Celtics perspective. Celtics took advantage of it. He was targeted every time down the floor, and they really pumped up their lead because of it. It's a great way to come out of the All-Star break. More coming up on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
The San Antonio Spurs are losing Victor Wembanyama for the rest of the season with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. Locked On Spurs host Jeff Garcia and Rudy Campos Jr. reacted to the news.
You probably already heard already. Victor Wembanyama is out for the season. He has thrombosis in the vein. So let's go ahead and read exactly what is going on. This is from the San Antonio Spurs. Quote, the San Antonio Spurs announced that Victor Wembanyama has been diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. The condition was discovered when Wembanyama returned to San Antonio following the All-Star game in San Francisco. Wembanyama is expected to miss the remainder of the 24-25 regular season. Team provide updates as appropriate. So, yeah, there you have it. It's been pretty much the talk of the Spurs fandom right now. Rudy, let's go ahead and get into our initial reaction. So when I saw the news, my first reaction was, well, there goes the season. That was exactly what I thought. They don't have a quality backup center. No knock on Mamu or Sohan, undersized, or even Bismack. They just don't have it. Bassi likely will come back. But again, you're seeing a big drop off. This impacts the entire season. We had just talked about this recently, and we'll have more discussion about this tomorrow. But we were there already thinking, where are we going to go with the season? Where are we going to go with this? You're not knocking on the playoff door for sure. Maybe the play-in, but I think this all but seals it. We're done.
Yeah, with the news coming out about Victor being out for the rest of the season, it's pretty much, I think, put a nail in the coffin. Again, they're going to win some games. They're not going to go out, just not winning games. They're going to win a few of these games in the last 30 games of the season. But not having Victor, it's going to be very difficult to win even some of the games that you and I were talking about at one point. And the fact of the matter is that guys are going to have to step up now. You're going to probably see a lot more of Stephon Castle. But the bigger question is this, knowing that De'Aaron Fox needs surgery in the offseason, at what point do you shut De'Aaron Fox down too? So this news is going to be probably snowballing into bigger things for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs are losing their number one defensive anchor, perhaps their biggest offensive threat. You're just losing a lot with Victor. This season, he was putting up 24.3 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists, shooting 47% from the field and 35% from the three line. Another ramification of this is you're losing one of your better three-point shooters. The team was really bad enough, but now you lose arguably one of your best three-shot makers and takers, all that stuff. It's, you just lose a lot. And defensively, there goes the blocks. He leads the league in blocks per game right now. To get those numbers up real fast here at 3.8 a game. You lose defense, you lose offense. It's likely a wrap for him as far as I think qualifying for any of the awards now, right? I don't think. Can he get Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, he can. Player of the Year.
Yeah. So he qualified for that. He does have 60 games or more. 41. 46. 46 games. Actually, I don't know. I thought the rule was 60 games.
No, it came out from, I think, Mark Spears or somebody had posted out. He's not eligible to win any NBA awards now. He had to have played a few more games to be eligible. The Defensive Player of the Year award is not attainable this year. No defensive teams or anything like that. So that's another shame right there.
Yeah, exactly. And, first of all, this is a serious condition that he was diagnosed with. Basically, in a nutshell, they found blood clots in the veins in his right shoulder. That's basically what it came down to. Not a good thing. Now, I have some fans already asking when Dr. Ryan McCorkle will be joining us. He will be joining us sometime soon. We're trying to get that nailed. But he did send me some information right here, Rudy, about what exactly it is. I'm going to read it for you guys. So basically, Dr. Ryan McCorkle is telling us that deep vein thrombosis is a blood clot in the vein. We know that. So the danger is that if a piece of it can break off and will go into the lungs, which is called pulmonary embolism, this can be life-threatening. He goes on to say the shoulder is pretty much an unusual place to have deep vein thrombosis. It's usually in the leg. Yeah, using the leg. So basically, whatever happened to Chris Bosh is happening to Victor Wembanyama. He has one more comment here. It goes, he have to be on a blood thinner for at least 6 months. So we'll talk more about that with Dr. Ryan McCorkle down the road. So there you have it. A very life-threatening thing. Spurs don't mess around when it comes to players' health whatsoever. They shut down Tim Duncan during the playoff run. That should tell you a lot. So with the season kind of in balance right now, whether they're going to go this way or that way, call it a wrap, call it a season, or fight for that play-in, I think they all but signal they're going to call it a wrap on the season. Because now you're going to see teams just attack that paint, attack the Spurs. There's only so much, Castle can do. He's a good player. D. Fox is a good player, but they're not Wemby.
You can stay up to date all year on the San Antonio Spurs by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Spurs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, are the Rams really shopping Matthew Stafford? Aaron Rodgers is on his way out of New York, with the Rams being a possible destination. Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowland explains why, if the Rams really want to replace Matthew Stafford with Aaron Rodgers, they are fools.
I don't think that the egomaniacal Aaron Rodgers that we've come to think of with the end of the Packers and really the Jets time, where he kind of felt like he was the one pulling the levers. He was forcing the team to get Nathaniel Hackett, who he knows, Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and all my guys, bring back the crew, trade for Devontae Adams. Like, I get how you could look at that and say that, but the last end of the quote that Doug was going over, where he said he's craving infrastructure and stability, I think that Aaron Rodgers knows that he's at a point in his career where he doesn't get to call shots. He's not, like you said, nobody's going to want that Aaron Rodgers. Nobody is going to get Aaron Rodgers and then signing all his buddies and doing. If he goes somewhere and he plays football this year, I think it'll be a totally different mindset. I continue to compare it to Thanos at the end of Infinity War, after he snapped half the universe out of existence. He kind of just sat down at his farm and looked over a grateful universe, is what he says. You know what I mean? I just feel like, and maybe this is naive of me, and you could say that for sure, and I wouldn't take offense, but I just think that we're not going to get the same Aaron Rodgers that we're used to seeing this year. There will be a different, more hands-off approach. Like, I just want to be one of the guys. I just want to play ball. I just want to compete and win some games in my final year. So I don't see the personality as much of an issue. Him being a 40-year-old who's probably a back 12 starting quarterback in the NFL is way more of an issue to me than the other stuff, because I think we'll see a toned down Rodgers in his final year.
The only reason for the Rams to move on from Matthew Stafford to replace him with an older, more cantankerous, more potentially problematic quarterback is that Sean McVay's bored. That would be the only explanation, that he's just bored. Let me try something different. Let's try something new. Give me a new challenge. Otherwise, this makes no sense. If you want to win this year, and the Rams went toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl contender, or with the Super Bowl champions, they would expect to be, with a little bit of tweaking, in that same mix again in 2025. Why are you moving on from Matthew Stafford for a player who was materially worse, who is coming off major injury, who has lit on fire 2 situations, including the team that drafted him? Why would you want to do that? Unless you're just bored. Sean McVay, play Call of Duty. Find a hobby. Don't do this. And finally, 9-time Pro Bowler Zack Martin is retiring from the NFL as one of the greatest offensive linemen of his generation. The Cowboys reported that the decision is likely to land over the coming days, as promised by Martin, who recently noted he would notify the team ahead of free agency, and it will end an incomparable 11-year run at the position. An official event set to be held by the Cowboys at some point in the next 2 weeks will honor the living legend, replacing one of the game's greatest linemen will probably be impossible in the short run for the Cowboys, and something that they will have to face this offseason. If you are catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, we dive deeper into what could be a wild NFL free agency period, plus the Combine is here next week. I'll be in Indianapolis to help you get a scene, the story, all the good stuff. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.